November 24th, 1931, the Beaufort Sea, northern Alaska. A blizzard had been raging for 4 days, winds at 70 miles per hour, temperatures at -40. The crew of the SS Baychimo were sheltered in a wooden hut they had built on the ice and could do nothing but wait. When the storm finally cleared, they dug their way out and looked toward where their ship had been. Empty ice, a dark open channel where the hull had sat. The Baychimo was gone. They assumed she had sunk. Nothing survives Arctic pack ice. Steel doesn't beat pack ice. That's not a theory. It's a physical fact that had claimed dozens of ships in those waters before her. Then the reports started coming in. The Baychimo hadn't sunk. She had sailed herself 45 miles south through the storm, without a crew, without an engine running, without anyone at the helm, and was floating peacefully in open water. What followed was one of the most extraordinary stories in the history of maritime exploration. For 38 years, the SS Baychimo drifted unmanned through the Arctic Ocean, appearing and disappearing across thousands of miles of frozen sea, evading every attempt to capture or salvage her, surviving conditions that should have destroyed her within weeks. Nobody has ever been able to fully explain how, and nobody has ever found her. The Baychimo was not built for legend. She was built for work. Launched in 1914 at the Lindholmen's shipyard in Gothenburg, Sweden, a 230-foot steel-hulled cargo steamer, 1,322 tons, powered by a triple-expansion steam engine. Her original name was the Ångermanälven, after one of Sweden's longest rivers. After the First World War, she was transferred to Britain as part of German war reparations, purchased by the Hudson's Bay Company for £15,000, and renamed Baychimo after one of their remote trading posts. Her job was unglamorous but essential. Every summer she would leave Vancouver loaded with supplies, food, medicine, lumber, tools, and make the treacherous run through the Northwest Passage, stopping at remote Inuit trading posts along the Alaskan and Canadian Arctic coast to deliver cargo and collect furs. Beaver, Arctic fox, wolverine, muskrat, seal. Then she would race back south before the winter closed in. She was good at it. Between 1921 and 1931, she completed 9 successful Arctic voyages, a remarkable record for a steel ship in those waters, where the ice had already claimed far stronger vessels. But before her 10th voyage, her own captain tried to stop her. Captain Sidney Cornwell, who had helmed the Baychimo for most of her Arctic career, wrote to the Hudson's Bay Company before the 1931 season with a warning that would later seem prophetic. He wrote that the Baychimo was not strong enough to work through heavy Arctic ice without sustaining serious damage. The company ordered her out anyway. The 1931 season was worse than anything Cornwell had seen. The Arctic autumn arrived early, and with exceptional ferocity. By late September, the ship was fighting through ice that should have been open water. By early October, she was completely encased, not partially iced in, but fully surrounded by pack ice several feet thick. The steel hull groaned under the pressure from every direction. Cornwell made the call. A passing aircraft airlifted 15 crew members to safety. Cornwell and 14 men stayed behind. They built a wooden shelter on the frozen sea beside the ship, moved the wireless radio into it, and settled in to wait out the winter, hoping that come spring the ice would release the Baychimo and they could sail her south. Then on November 24th, the blizzard hit. For 4 days the men were sealed inside their wooden hut. When it finally stopped, they dug out and walked to where the ship had been. Gone. A dark channel of open water where the hull had sat. Cornwell's conclusion: she had been driven under by the storm. The ice had done what ice always does to ships. The Baychimo was lost. He began making arrangements to get his remaining crew home. Then an Inuit seal hunter came to camp with news that would change everything. He had seen the Baychimo, not sinking, not broken apart, floating intact in open water 45 miles south of where she had been. The storm had driven her through the ice, not under it. Cornwell and his men tracked the ship down and boarded her. The hull was intact. The superstructure was battered but standing. The cargo of furs, worth approximately $58,000, was still in the hold. But another storm was building. The ship was too damaged to sail safely south. The risk to any salvage crew was too great. After consulting with the Hudson's Bay Company, Cornwall made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He removed the most valuable furs from the hold, stepped off the ship for the last time, and left her to the Arctic. That was November 1931. The Baychimo had other plans. March 1932, Leslie Melvin, a trapper travelling by dog sled to Nome, spotted the Baychimo floating near the shore. He boarded her. After more than a year alone in the Arctic, through 2 full winters, through storms that should have destroyed her, the hull was sound, weathered and scarred, but intact. He salvaged what he could and left. The ship drifted north and vanished back into the ice. March 1933, a group of Inuit hunters came upon the Baychimo frozen in pack ice. They boarded her to shelter from an approaching storm. The storm lasted 10 days. While they waited inside the groaning hull, the ice shifted and the ship began to move, carrying them with her deeper into the Arctic. They barely escaped when a break in the ice allowed them to reach land. Later that summer, a research schooner on a botanical expedition spotted the Baychimo on the horizon. They boarded and explored her. When they left and continued their voyage, the Baychimo appeared again, and again, on the horizon behind them, as if following. She was spotted 5 more times during that single expedition. December 1933. One of the most extraordinary details of this entire story. Richard Finney, a crew member who had served on the Baychimo before her abandonment, received a letter in England. The letter had been posted from aboard the Baychimo after she was abandoned. Found by an Inuit who had boarded the ship, recovered the letter from the mail, and posted it all the way to England. A letter mailed from a ghost ship. 1939, Hugh Paulson led a formal salvage attempt. He found the ship, boarded her, and began operations. Within hours, ice closed around the Baychimo faster than anything Paulson's team had ever seen. A full storm materialized seemingly from nowhere. The salvage team evacuated. The Baychimo sailed herself clear again. She was spotted intermittently through the 1940s and 1950s. Descriptions consistent across observers, who had never compared notes, all describing the same battered steel hull, riding lower in the water each decade, but still floating. March 1962, a group of Inuit hunters spotted her in the Beaufort Sea, documented the location and noted her condition. Battered, rust-streaked, but structurally present. 1969, a group of Inuit spotted the Baychimo one final time, frozen in pack ice in the Chukchi Sea, between Point Barrow and Icy Cape. She was 55 years old. She had been unmanned for 38 of them. After 1969, nothing. This is the question that has puzzled naval architects and Arctic historians for decades. How does a neglected steel ship survive unattended in Arctic seawater for 38 years? Naval engineers consulted in later decades couldn't offer a clean explanation. A steel hull in Arctic seawater corrodes rapidly. Rivets fail. Seams open. Water ingress becomes catastrophic within months without maintenance. No bilge pumps running, no sealant, no repairs. By any conventional understanding of maritime engineering, the Baychimo should have been on the seafloor within a year or two of abandonment. The most credible explanation lies in how she was sitting in the ice. From the very beginning, observers noted that the Baychimo had been pushed up onto the ice rather than crushed by it, riding on top of a large, deep ice floe, rather than being squeezed between floes. In this position, she was protected from the lateral crushing pressure that destroys most ships caught in pack ice. The ice became her cradle rather than her grave. There is also the phenomenon known as transpolar drift, the constant movement of Arctic ice, driven by deep ocean currents that can carry anything frozen within it for thousands of miles. The same currents that carried wreckage from the crushed USS Jeannette from Siberia all the way to Greenland over 3 years in the 1880s could have moved the Baychimo across vast distances of Arctic Ocean, keeping her in motion, preventing the prolonged static corrosion that kills anchored ships. Her original construction helped too. Built for the Baltic Sea, she had been given extra hull ribbing for ice reinforcement, a more rounded bow designed to ride up on ice and break it, rather than ram it. The same features that made her useful in Arctic trading made her extraordinarily resistant to being crushed. It still doesn't fully explain it. Naval architects couldn't model it. It has not happened before. It has not happened since. In 2006, the Alaskan government formally investigated. State historians launched a comprehensive search, pulling together every recorded sighting, every logged coordinate, every first-hand account across 4 decades of appearances. They mapped the drift patterns. They calculated where the ship, based on known Arctic currents, might have ended up. They sent search teams into the most likely zones. They found nothing. No wreck on the seafloor, no fragments on any coastline, no identifiable debris anywhere in the known sighting corridor. The official conclusion: whereabouts unknown. Think about what that means. 1,322 tons of steel, a ship the length of 2.5 basketball courts. 38 years drifting along one of the most surveilled coastlines in North America, surveilled specifically for exactly the kind of ice hazard a drifting wreck would represent, and nobody can find a trace of her. Captain Sidney Cornwell, the man who had captained the Baychimo through her greatest years, who had written the warning letter the company ignored, who had made the decision to leave her in November 1931, returned to the Arctic after the abandonment and captained more ships for the Hudson's Bay Company for years. He was interviewed late in life, back home in England. He was asked what he thought had happened to her. He said he thought she would drift for many years before she finally sank. He thought she might end up somewhere near Siberia. And then he said something that has stayed with me since I first read this account. He said he hoped that someday, out there on those Arctic waters, he might see her again. He never did. He died in the 1950s. The Baychimo was still being spotted in 1969. The Beaufort Sea is deep. Parts of it exceed 1,500 meters. A hull that finally gave way and went down cleanly in deep water, far from shore, in a storm, leaves almost nothing. The ice takes the debris. The currents scatter it. 60 years on the bottom is 60 years. But no wreck has ever been found. No fragment. Not on any coastline. Not on any seafloor survey. So here is the question the Baychimo leaves you with. Not where did she go, but whether she is still out there, somewhere in the vast dark waters north of Alaska, still moving, still floating, still impossible. The Arctic is large enough to keep that secret for a very long time. The best book ever written on this story is Baychimo, Arctic Ghost Ship by Anthony Dalton, the definitive account of everything we know and everything we don't. The link is in the description below. Subscribe to Fathomy. Every story we cover is something the ocean decided to keep. We're going to keep pulling them up. I'll see you in the next one.